Looking forward to hearing a scintillating discussion. I keep trying, okay. That's okay. I should learn by now.
You're going to sit at the end? Okay.
Hello. Thank you, Magdalena. Thank you, everybody, for being here at the Proof of Work Summit. I think it's been an excellent 2 days, a lot of fun. Thank you, Diego, Bob, Istora. We are all here ETC people. We either participate in the community or we have official, not official, but roles hired we work for. And we have different roles that we are going to say now. Me specifically, each one of us is going to present ourselves quickly. I am the senior editor at the ETC Cooperative. Diego?
Thank you, Donald. Yeah, I'm core developer for working now for CoreGeth. I'm also part of a cooperative. Yeah, I'm really pleased to be here.
And hi, I'm Bob Samuel, so I'm the executive director at the Ethereum Cooperative. I've been involved in the blockchain ecosystem since around 2014. I previously worked at the Ethereum Foundation at Consensys, Enterprise Ethereum Alliance, a little bit of Hyperledger stuff, and I've been in the ETC ecosystem since late 2018. Started this role early 2019.
And hello, I'm Astora. I hang out in the ETC Discord quite a bit and have helped out with the ETC website and contributed to some other thoughts in the space that have helped shape discussion in ETC land.
And when he says helps out, he means has done the vast majority of the work for many, many years. Thank you.
I wouldn't say that, but thanks.
Yeah, Istora's work is amazing. The whole ethereumclassic.org website was built by him, designed by him, and a lot of the content also written by Istora. So thank you so much, Istora, for that. Bueno, Ethereum Classic, you have, like in Bitcoin, like in LiteCoin, Ethereum Classic is a blockchain, no? And it's a truly decentralized blockchain. And you have the operating blockchain, and the constituents there are the node operators, and then you have the miners. And then on top you have the social layer, which are a core group, which we could call the community, who are people who participate as volunteers. Like in our cases, we dedicate a lot of our hours as volunteers, although we also have paid jobs in the case of us three. But before, I had been, for example, a volunteer for years in ETC just for the principles, just for how attractive it is. And the social layer also has investors, and then all the exchanges where ETC is listed, many dApp developers and teams, and also the ETC Cooperative, which is an entity that was created by investors who donated money to help maintain different parts of the infrastructure and things like that. But ETC is very interesting in that sense because it's a truly decentralized blockchain, very similar to Bitcoin. I don't know if there's other blockchains that are as decentralized as ETC. So that would be a good topic, actually. Of the 5 topics that we're going to talk about, this one would be good to talk about, because ETC has an interesting genesis, which is that originally it is Ethereum. It was one single blockchain. And in 2016, there was the DAO controversy, and there was a fork where the 95% of the community decided to manipulate the blockchain and reverse funds from an account and give it back to the original investors of a dApp called the DAO. And those who decided to stick to the principles and say that the blockchain cannot be touched and it should be immutable, we kept running the original ETC. I wasn't there, I say we, because now I've been working on ETC so long that I feel that I was there, no? But I was part of the fight in Ethereum. It would be interesting Bob, you also were there, to see what is your opinion about that, that event and how it affected ETC and the independence of ETC, and why is it doesn't have founders, it doesn't have leaders, it doesn't have presidents or kings or something like that, things like that. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, it's you know, it's not quite a Bitcoin immaculate conception, but it's you know, a similar kind of pattern was Ethereum was one of the earlier ICOs. Around $16 million worth of Bitcoin was raised in the crowd sale. Those funds went, some of them controversially, to early contributors, but a large chunk of them went to the Ethereum Foundation, which has the trademark on Ethereum and has been the core of all that early protocol development work. Obviously, it's a lot richer ecosystem than just that. But you know, the development that was the focal point for development around Ethereum. And yeah, I mean, what happened with the DAO was that the DAO was effectively, it was the largest, the first big DApp, essentially. And it ended up a huge amount of money being contributed into that in the very early days of smart contract development. And there was a hack where a large amount of those funds were going to be exfiltrated by a hacker who, or were they following the rules? And it was an ethical hack. You know, I guess that's a part of it, but you had this very you know, very intense conversation over the period of a month or so. I was actually working for the Ethereum Foundation at the time. I was very much a witness to this, as to, well, what do you do? Or do you do anything? You know, was this a bug? Because it wasn't an issue with the protocol. It was an issue with a particular smart contract. But stealing's bad. If you have the option of stopping a thief without an appeal to government, without an appeal to law enforcement, you know, should you do that? And yeah, you know, the majority of the Ethereum community felt that intervention was correct, despite that being a clear violation of, you know, of the immutability of the chain. And then what you had is, you know, a subset, and not insubstantial subset. I mean, you say 95%. I think it was more like 85-15, probably. With a sizable group believing, well, no, of course you don't intervene. You know, of course you don't. What on earth would you do that for? So it was more like the corpse was abandoned on the ground, and then people chose to revive that. You know, miners saw value in continuing to mine that chain. It had a listing on Poloniex. You know, that was a market value, and you know, and things went from there. So then what you had on the losing side of the fork, in terms of you know, in terms of both hash power, developer attention, and so on, you know, continued as Ethereum Classic, but without the money, without the foundation, without the trademark, without the ticker, without you know, the developer mindset. But while I was at the Ethereum Foundation at the time and continued my work on the Ethereum side for a number of years, the big learning to me from that was that a minority side of a contentious split could survive. There were no instances of that, to my knowledge, until that point. You know, it was a quite pivotal learning in terms of the fact that the right for people to permissionlessly fork or not fork as they wish, you know, is a fundamental principle, and you have something that's very, very unique with blockchains there. Of unlike the real world, you know, if you don't like the result of the election, you can live in the alternate universe. The two of them are there in parallel. You don't even have to pick a side. You know, if you like these two different visions, you can participate on both.
Istora, you were also there. What was your experience there, and how do you think that that split affects the existence of ETC today in terms of its true decentralization?
Yeah, I guess it goes deeper than just the blockchain, but more into the philosophy of why we're here in the first place. And I think a lot of people questioned, why even have a blockchain if you're going to subjectively interfere in the operation of it? And it begs the question, when do you interfere next time, and the next time after that? And yes, it seems that Ethereum has come to some agreement that we're not going to interfere anymore, but is that always going to be the case? And what if it's out of their hands? And now with the switch to proof of stake, it seems like it's even more likely that those kind of subjective interventions are going to happen. So I think it really goes down to, the whole point is code is law. And if not code is law, then it's some person in the real world that makes these decisions, which is exactly what we're trying to move away from with blockchain. So,
yeah, I think the effects were that Ethereum at the time was born out of a pre-sale, and then in the pre-sale, after the pre-sale, there were the original Ethereum, Ether, created, of which part went to the developers and part went to a foundation. So today you have Ethereum, which is led by a foundation that dictates everything that happens in the foundation, the developers and everything. And they have, say, hundreds of millions of dollars or billions of dollars to influence the direction of Ethereum. And you have a founder, Vitalik, that is present. That is something that Satoshi consciously did. He abandoned on purpose because he understands decentralization. There's very few people in the whole industry and here in this room that understand decentralization. And he understands it, and Vitalik evidently doesn't, because he's there every day leading and being this central figure that only keeps centralization in the whole ecosystem. When ETC detached from that, like you said, it was a corpse left there, and the heroes who picked it up and revived it, turned it into what it is today, a $2 billion plus chain, the biggest proof of work smart contracts blockchain in the world, which is an extremely valuable position that we're going to talk about today. But totally detached from that initial coin offering, detached from the foundation, it has it's leaderless, and there's no founder. Our founder is Vitalik, but he's not here. He left. It's like a kind of synthetic Satoshi, because he's not with ETC. So I think that is the interesting thing about ETC, that it's a truly decentralized blockchain at the social layer because of these things, which I think is also the case in Bitcoin. This morning somebody said that, or yesterday I think one speaker said, when a Bitcoin is clearly centralized. I think that is a clear mistake. I mean, it's a clear error of conception or misconception of what decentralization means. So there's another big event in the life of ETC, which is the merge of Ethereum, and how it affected ETC. So Diego, would you like to talk about the merge and how you think it affected ETC?
Yeah, sure. Well, first of all, it was an interesting event for the whole community, I think. For a major blockchain was switching its consensus algorithm, so that was something really impressive for them to do. For us, we didn't know what to expect, actually. At the beginning, we expected like a lot of the hashing power will migrate to our blockchain, or to stay in our blockchain. And that happened at the beginning, so we had like a big spike of hashing power coming in. And then eventually it started to lower a bit, but we are still in a numbers much higher than before the merge. Overall, the network is working, I think, better than before, because we have more security than before. And we are now like I think the most important blockchain based on proof of work on terms of hashing power at least. So that gives us the opportunity, for example, to disable some securities we set before the merge around proof of work and some subjective consensus rules that we call MES that was brought and integrated into the network protocol before I joined the cooperative, but it is still there. And nowadays we are in the position to disable it because we are now the main blockchain that it's the only blockchain that
we're like Charlie Lee said today, we are the leading blockchain in our mining algorithm.
Yeah, so we are not in that risk anymore to have a 51% attack coming from another blockchain.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Bob, what do you think? How did the merge affect ETC?
Yeah, I mean, it was very, very positive in the end. I mean, heading into it, and certainly the last 2-3 years as a minority hash, you know, we were in a very uncertain position. You know, there were a series of 51% attacks in August of 2020, and you know, at that time, I think it was 40 or 50x more hash on the Ethereum side than on the ETC side. And if you are a minority hash, you're in a very weak position. And then, yeah, very unclear when the transition was going to happen, if it was going to happen. You know, it took 8 years in the end, start to end, from the genesis of Ethereum, with a clear intention to transition to proof of stake. You know, that was part of the white paper there. So yeah, lots of uncertainty heading into it, and then at the point of transition, you know, are you going to have attacks? Like, are you going to have a lot of turbulence? How's all that going to go? But you know, it went marvelously. You know, we just had this massive spike in hash rate that then settled down. But you know, I think sort of 6 or 8x more hash in the end coming through. And I mean, the other thing as well is, if you think in terms of like product positioning, you know, not necessarily a very comfortable thing to talk about, you know, within an open source project. But you know, the reality is that we are in a competitive marketplace. People, you know, have got a large variety of cryptocurrencies that they can engage in, and different value propositions and philosophies and so on. And through those periods between 2016 and 2023, you know, the reality is that Ethereum and ETC were very similar. You know, they were both proof of work systems with basically its identical EVM. And you know, the story on the ETC side was like, well, hey, if you don't want the DAO hack, and you think that was a bad thing, you had the fixed monetary policy. I guess that was probably the most concrete difference that there was. But essentially, it's like, well, hey, you know, do you want the little brother with not a lot of ecosystem going on in a very attackable form, but we're ethical? Yeah. So not so appealing. And so yeah, now there is a clear differentiation of ETC in the proof of work forever, fixed monetary policy, and strong, you know, immutability ethos.
Istora?
Yeah, I think one of the main differentiators we have now is the commitment to censorship resistance. And I think that's going to become an increasingly important issue going forward, not just on a protocol level in terms of proof of work, but also ethically and in the philosophy of the platform, which has been there since day one. So if, and I think this is likely, Ethereum is once again censored in some way or another, then Ethereum Classic can be there to say, look, we were here from the get-go saying we won't censor. And I think that's really going to show some value as time goes on. The other thing I wanted to mention is that I think last time in Canada in 2019, there was a debate about moving to SHA-3, which I believe, made the correct choice collectively to not implement, especially now that the merge has happened and we've seen the outcome. And we are the apex predator of Ethash now. So I think that was a good decision on our part.
Well, that is also another indication and show and proof of the decentralization of ETC. In the blockchains that are now Ethereum proof of stake, but they have these large foundations with hundreds of millions, billions of dollars, and Avalanche and Polkadot and Cardano and EOS, Tezos, and all these proof of stake blockchains that are smart contracts that they wanted to front run Ethereum. They all got billions of dollars in the ICO epoch in 2017, 2018. And whenever they make a decision, they just do it. There's no real decentralization there, and that shows that they just, there's some leadership or elite within the ecosystem that decides the next steps, like Charles Hoskinson, for example, in Cardano. What he says is what's going to happen in the blockchain. So that proves that they're not decentralized. And proof of stake as a technology is not decentralized. But in ETC, there's many times that there are proposals through the ECIP process, which is the Ethereum Classic Improvement Proposal process, which is exactly like the BIP process in Bitcoin or the EIP process in Ethereum, that they just come in, they get destroyed in the debates, and they just are not implemented. Why? Because when there's controversy in truly decentralized blockchains, things don't get implemented. This is why it is good that Bitcoin doesn't change, or it changes very slowly, because it is the only behavior that a truly decentralized system will have. Sometimes it's not a choice because some people are maximalists and they believe that change must be slow. No, it is slow because it's a decentralized system. And when you propose something and there's a significant minority, not even a majority, a significant minority that doesn't like your proposal, it's very difficult that it's going to pass. And SHA-3 was opposed by several people. Roning opposed it. I was in favor. So part of the community was in favor, part of the community was against it. It was a change of the mining algorithm because we wanted something more clean than the ETC hash, which is inherited from Ethereum, the hash algorithm. And we wanted an algorithm that would be the leader in its niche at the time. That was the logic. But if part of the community didn't like it, the ecosystem, then it didn't pass. It didn't pass just because there wasn't rough consensus like cypherpunks say. Then you mentioned something, Bob. You mentioned that during the DAO controversy, the people who wanted to do the manual change and violate immutability, their argument was that they were being ethical because they were returning the money from a thief to the original owners. Therefore, they were respecting property rights. Therefore, that was the right, the right path or the right way, which is clearly wrong because a blockchain is about trust minimization. And whenever there's a bug in a smart contract or a loss, or somebody loses their, let's say, even if they lose $100 million in an account, the community cannot touch the blockchain. It has to be immutable. It's the only way to be trust minimized, to minimize as much as possible the risk of third parties controlling the system, which is how the world works and banking works, and that's exactly what we're trying to avoid. So that was one fallacy there.
Just a little observation on that. I think something that's quite different in blockchains than anywhere else is, software is very buggy. Anyone who is a software engineer or is involved at all knows, software is buggy because humans are fallible and people make mistakes. And but that is often shielded from us in the current reality because these things are wrapped within legal entities. You have a load of terrible software, I'm sure, within banks. But if something goes wrong, it'll get covered. They will do something to make it right, or if there is a loss, someone a credit card theft or whatever, you either have insurance or you have a legal entity. You can mop all that up, and that is utterly not the case in blockchain, where talking about the sewer rat, as Andreas Antonopoulos would talk about, that you're just out there scrapping, and it's bare to the world. You know, you get security by being out in the open and being attacked and failing. And that's something that's quite different from a current reality where we've got these layers and layers of wrappers and protection. But those are also a form of control and you know, and potential abuse. Is you have all these third parties.
Yeah.
Most of the time, it's providing some value, but that there is systemic risk there.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. The other thing you mentioned, Diego, that I think is also a fallacy is that the merge by Ethereum was an engineering prowess, this amazing thing that only super intelligent people in an unnatural way can do and implement or something like that. I think it's an absolute disaster what they did. It's a catastrophe. They moved from proof of work, the truly incredible invention of the blockchain industry that brings decentralization, and they moved to proof of stake, and they turned Ethereum into a centralized system. It's a disaster. I don't know how to explain. When I try to ping Vitalik on Twitter, now he never pays attention to me anymore. I tell him, Vitalik, you led Ethereum to its suicide. Ethereum is dead. Inside, Ethereum is dead. It's like a tree that just died, but it still has the leaves, the green leaves, and it looks alive. But inside, Ethereum is already dead.
Just to add to that, I think that you're pretty much true, pretty much correct, and that is good for ETC, obviously. I think that the proof of stake scenario will play itself out eventually, and a lot of that value, which is on an EVM existing today, will need a new home. And I think that ETC is an obvious place for all of that value to migrate to if and when the proof of stake tree does crumble from within.
Yeah. Something a good friend of mine said to me yesterday was, but it's still good that Ethereum is there, because ultimately, every project in this ecosystem is an experiment, right? Everything's an experiment, right? It's all just things going on. So we want all experiments to run. And irrespective of the ultimate failure or success of any of those different ones, you know, it's all building technology, and it's learning lessons, and all of that is, you know, is reusable, and we're you know, everything that is done is moving us forward collectively in some form. So it's great that all of these things are happening.
I think that the Ethereum ecosystem is an example of not learning.
I think there are parts of it that are good.
They've seen Bitcoin proof of work, Bitcoin, how it's worked since 2009, 99% plus uptime. That it's the true consensus mechanism. Now they're struggling with proof of stake, with centralization. The day that Ethereum moved to proof of stake, it was censored. The next day, like 70% censored. They do not learn. I do not agree that it's a learning. Maybe for us that we're seeing, everything that we anticipated is true. Yes,
I'm saying it is learning for us all as a group.
And the applications built on top of Ethereum today can be migrated. So all of that innovation that's happening above the protocol layer is still good for ETC and all EVMs. So
yeah, I do agree that ERC20, for example, is a good standard. The ERC 721 for NFTs is a good standard. The liquidity pool system for exchanges, decentralized exchanges, I think it's a good invention that happened in that ecosystem. So yeah, there's some good things, but at the macro layer, I think at the macro level, I think it's a...
Just a quick note. Well, it's fair for me to say that as a developer, we build on top of most of the work that the Ethereum Foundation is doing. So for us as developers, they add a lot of value. Because we are using as a base of our core Geth, Go Ethereum. So we are learning from them. We are still learning from them a lot of things, and we are using their software. We are adding our modifications, things that we believe are better for ETC, but at the same time, we think we are part of the same thing.
Well, I mean, you know, it's the differentiation between open source software projects and network instances.
Yep, agree.
Another way to look at it is the technology versus philosophy comparison, where we love Bitcoin for its philosophy, we love Ethereum to some extent for its technology contributions, and combining them together to create something that's better than both of them in some ways. I do like Bitcoin though.
I think the great thing that Vitalik did in the blockchain industry, like I said in my talk this morning, is the second most important thing of the blockchain industry that was invented. There's only 2 inventions in the whole industry. One is that proof of work is this signaling system that keeps the system decentralized, because each participant around the world, even if you're in Africa, in the North Pole, South Pole, Argentina, Brazil, Canada, wherever you are, Russia, speak different languages, you're from different parts of the world, you may be even at war, different religions. Without checking with anybody else, you can be part of the network and leave and come back because of proof of work, now the signaling system of proof of work. And the second, the only other invention that is relevant and important in the whole industry is smart contracts, and that was truly invented by Vitalik. It was a brilliant idea. Bob and I were talking the other day to put the EVM together, the account system, the state system, the gas system, all together with Solidity as a programming language, and creating Ethereum Classic, no? which is the original Ethereum. So yes, there are some good things. I agree. Bueno, Diego, speaking of learning from the Ethereum developers at the technical level, can you talk about the next fork of ETC?
Yeah, sure. So right now we have agreed within the community, but it is still open there for still there is some room for comment there on ECIP number 1109. So that will be, it's the ICIP number for the proposal of the upcoming network upgrade. It's named Spiral. The idea with this network upgrade is to catch up with the changes introduced in Shanghai in the Ethereum network. There are basically, so they added six EIPs. I have the list here. So there are some that we are including and some that doesn't make sense on our network. Those that we are including are warm Coinbase, which is a change within a certain type of transactions that you can send on-chain, that you define the list of accounts you are going to use within that transaction, and that will lower the gas price for the execution of that transaction. For those specific transactions, now the Coinbase is considered what is called a warm account. So the access to whatever has that account will be cheaper from the time being after the upgrade. So there are also some changes on the EVM, so which are the most important things that we have tried to catch up here. They are adding a new instruction, is the push 0 instruction. So, but it's something that mostly the Solidity developers will use, or any other compilers will use. So the smart contracts that are going to be compiled targeting Shanghai or Spiral in our case will have this optimization that will also decrease the execution, the price execution of the new smart contracts deployed. Also, there is some other change for limiting and metering the init code, which is like a specific part of the execution of a smart contract. But there is also a change there. I mean, there is an increase on the size of what you can deploy on chain. And also there are Also we are deprecating self-destruct. So deprecating means that we are recommending that people to not use in the future, or to not deploy anything using self-destruct, because it might be removed from future versions of the protocol.
The self-destruct opcode.
Yes, the self-destruct opcode. Basically, the idea behind that is that it was not a good mechanism for what it was intended to do. It had like several drawbacks. For example, it might allow you to change the code that you are actually executing, which is a thing that is not nice in a blockchain.
And I guess just to touch on sort of immutability there, you know, change of opcodes is not necessarily like breaking that immutability in that you can, the behavior can change at certain points, right? So things which are previously deployed, you're not changing the behavior of those, but you can be saying as of this point, smart contracts deployed are, you know, they've got different sets of constraints because we've learned more about what, you know, what makes sense for the platform.
Yeah. So there's two others that we are not including. So one is the withdrawals from the beacon chain, because we, of course, we don't have a beacon chain here and nothing else to withdraw from. And also they are changing like the semantics behind the difficulty opcode, because Ethereum doesn't have difficulty anymore. So as the most normal usage of the difficulty opcode within the blockchain was to have like some kind of pseudo randomness. So now they are changing it to what they call prev-ran DAO. So the random DAO generation from Ethereum now is being exposed through that opcode. So that's something that will work only on Ethereum, because this DAO, this random number, comes from the beacon chain. But for us, it's the same thing. I mean, difficulty will still be the same thing. I mean, it will be the difficulty forever.
Excellent. And when you think, when is the estimated time or month that you think the hard fork is going to happen?
Well, if we all agree that are the set of ECIPs or EIPs that we want to be included, probably we can have an activation for Mordor in the next month, and a month after that, if everything goes well, we can have it activated on mainnet.
The Mordor is the testnet of ETC, and the mainnet would be a month later, you said?
Probably, yeah.
So in 2 months. So just to clarify, the Ethereum Classic is part of a collection or a segment within the blockchain industry of blockchains which are smart contracts blockchains, and they all have what is called the EVM, the Ethereum Virtual Machine. So all these blockchains, there are more or less 15 to 20 blockchains. Usually, whenever there is a change in the industry, it's more or less like a standard. So whenever there is a new change, especially in Ethereum, which is the leading blockchain that leads the innovation in the EVM standard, then the rest of the blockchains usually adopt the same standard. And ETC, usually after 6 months, 8 months, it incorporates the changes that Ethereum does, because we have to be part of the standard. If not, we would break out of the standard, and like an operating system, if you're too different, then nobody's going to use you. So you have to be very close to the standard.
Yeah.
So Donald, it looks like we're kind of running out of time here a little bit. Perhaps you have a final question for Istora.
Yes, for Istora is ETC's unique value proposition, if you can talk about that.
Well, I guess it's the code is law thing. And I guess I'll end on the idea that if you don't have code is law, you have something that's not code is law, which is some subjective consensus. And without that, you can't have rule of law. And I think rule of law is something that everyone wants. It's making everyone have fair interactions in the world. And without rule of law, you have this idea of anarcho-tyranny, which is just the arbitrary application of some subjective standard that can be used and abused by whoever wields that power. So I think code is law is the antidote to anarcho-tyranny.
I agree. And thank you very much, Istora. Thank you, Bob. Thank you, Diego. Magdalena, would you like to take over?
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you so much, gentlemen. It's a treat as someone that's more from the Bitcoin ecosystem hearing about some of the history and what's happening currently on Ethereum Classic. So thank you, gentlemen.